We're going to talk about targets and trade management together because they are very intertwined and it would just make more sense. One very simple way to treat your targets, and this is especially good for learning, is to use the classic A, B, or C idea that Shirley uses. And Shirley does really, really well, so you might want to pay attention to this. And these are basically categories of volatility, with A being the highest. A classic A means that if you're trading a two lot with a 20 pip risk, you take a 20 pip profit on one lot and 40 pip profit on the second lot. In other words, whatever your initial risk is, that's your first profit target on half of your position, and then the second profit target is double the initial risk. A classic B is the same as a classic A, except that the initial risk is only 15 pips, and because this would be on a pair where the volatility wasn't as high, so your target would be 15 pips for half, then 30 pips for the second half. And a classic C is for a very low volatility pair with only a 10 pip initial risk. So we'd be looking for a 10 pip profit on half, then 20 pips on the second half. This is kind of a more rare to have this low volatility, although the US yen is like that right now. Now I know that this is a simplistic approach, okay, and in reality you're going to want to pay very close attention to support and resistance levels as price moves in your favor, and use that information as well to adjust stops and take profits. But like I said, trading is not a mechanical one-size-fits-all endeavor, okay? Every single trade that you take is different. It's unique, okay? And that's why you need to learn how to read conditions, which we'll talk about later on. Now, if you feel that you don't want to use the classic A, B, and C targets, that's fine. The targets that you want to go for on a trade are going to depend on several factors, such as things like volatility of the pair that you're trading and the market environment, correlations with other pairs, etc. All important things. As with everything else in trading, there are no absolutes. Okay, trading's quite discretionary, but we want to make our decisions as objective as we can. But while you're learning, we're going to lay out a few guidelines that you should find very useful, and as you gain more experience, you'll find that you'll develop a better and better feel for how the trading day is shaping up, and this will influence your targets and your risk management. Okay, so we would just really encourage you to keep it simple and uncomplicated. So just as a general comment, with these short-term intraday trades, the idea is to reduce or eliminate risk as soon as you practically can. Now, what does that mean? Well, now we're getting back into the artsy part of this business again. If you move your stop too soon, you can get stopped out prematurely, right? And if you move it too late, you could take a bigger than necessary loss. But basically, here it is. The idea is that as price moves in your favor, okay, and when I say that, you want to see price move at least 10 pips as a general rule. So when that happens, start reducing risk. Not necessarily eliminating it, you could, but at least reducing it. So say you had a 20 pip stop in and you're up 10 pips. You might want to cut your risk to just 10 or 15 pips. Okay, and remember, if you started off with a 1% risk, every time you can move the stop up, you're no longer risking 1%, right? So it should be quite rare that you actually take a full 1% loss. Now, as we said earlier with the classic A, B, and C targets, as a general suggestion, whatever the amount of your risk is can be your first profit target. Okay, and you may wish to take partial profits at this point, or you might want to simply move the stop up to break even and go for a larger profit. One of the things to keep in mind is the idea of funding your trade. This means that you get the risk out of your trade and you put yourself in a position whereby you cannot lose money on the trade, which obviously is a great position to be in. How you might do this is by taking partial profit on part of your position and then moving your stop so that if price does come back on you, you can't lose. Okay, so again, to keep things simple, we'd recommend that once you take some profit, you move your stop to break even on the remaining lots and go for a bigger profit target with what you have left. Okay, the thing is, we want you to get used to taking profits and making money. Okay, the more sophisticated stuff, that can all come later. Keep this simple. And for the profit on the second half of your position, if price is moving strongly, then look to the hourly chart as a very good guideline to see where you can expect price to hit support if you're short, or resistance if you're long. These are very good places to take profits, or at least move stops up very tightly. And yes, you know what? You might get out for a profit and price could keep on moving the way you thought it would in the first place. But you know what? Do not let this become a problem for you, okay? Hindsight is great, isn't it? Nobody ever lost a trade in hindsight. But, we need to make decisions in real time in a live trading situation with a real live trading account. So, just use logical levels to take your profits. Okay? Just staying with trade management for a second. I also want to be clear and mention that as price moves in your favor, even if it doesn't make your first profit target, make sure to reduce or eliminate risk whenever price moves in your favor by 10 pips or more. Get some risk out of that trade. Or if it hits expected support or resistance. And this would be things such as, like price levels, pivots, or Fibonacci levels. Remember when we talked about stop placement when I said that we want to try to never lose the full amount of our initial stop loss.